Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's recipe, we're making a cauliflower saffron rice risotto. Now previously I made a recipe making a traditional risotto using arborio rice. And I asked you guys, all of you, if you wanted to see this recipe in a cauliflower version, and you said yes. So that's what we're doing today. This is going to cut down the carbs, and so basically the only difference between the two, well, the main difference between the two is I'm using cauliflower rice versus arborio rice. So I'm Rockin' Robin, and I'm going to show you how to do it right after this. All right, everybody, let's go over the ingredients. First off, let's talk about our cauliflower, because I got a couple things I want to share with you about that. You can either use a head of cauliflower and rice it yourself in a food processor, or you can buy a package of it like I have here from Trader Joe's, and it's already riced for you. Now, there is a difference in my view between the two. The packaged stuff, if you look at the package closely, you'll see that it contains not so much the florets, you know, the little heads of the cauliflower, but you're getting a lot of the stems, all right? So what that means is that it's gonna take twice as long to cook. At least that's been my experience. So, you know, a regular cauliflower head will take, you know, when you rice it up and you cook it, it's much more tender. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes to cook it completely. And with the packaged stuff, that's going to take twice that time. So it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes because the pieces are just much more crunchy. So I just want to point that out. You can use either one, both will work, but just know that you're going to have to cook the packaged one a little bit longer, or twice as long. All right, next up we'll need some sausage. So I like to use Aidelle Sausages. They're pre-cooked, they're, you know, pretty natural, pretty healthy, and they're easy to work with. Next up we'll need some cheese. So I'm using 2 cheeses, and this is going to give me that creamy sort of texture that I'm looking for in a risotto rice. So I'm using a little bit of Monterey Jack and a little bit of Gruyere cheese. And the Gruyere cheese is really nice because it has a nice little savory, nutty flavor, which really goes well with this recipe. We'll need some yellow onion, finely diced. And over here I have some porcini mushrooms. They're dried mushrooms, which means we have to rehydrate them in some nice warm water for about 15-20 minutes before we can chop them up and add them to our dish. You can use regular fresh mushrooms if you like. Now, I like to cut mine really fine and mince them up because my family doesn't like them, you know, big pieces. So you do whatever you feel, you know, is right for your family. Next, we'll need some white wine. I'm using just a sauvignon blanc, nothing fancy. We'll need some saffron. I have some in my little treasure trove here. I have some Spanish saffron, one of the most expensive spices in the world, but we're only going to be using a pinch, so that's a good thing. We'll need some chicken broth and some salt. All right, everyone, to start off our recipe, the first thing we want to do is hydrate our mushrooms since they take a few minutes to do. So I'm going to add some very warm water to the container and just submerge them. And just give a little dunk and they'll be fine. All right, set that aside and let them do its thing. So we're going to take our saffron, and I'm just going to take a pinch now. I want to show you what that looks like. So, you know, a pinch like this. I'm going to put it in a pestle and mortar. You can just put it in a bowl if you don't have one. And you're going to crush it up. You want to break it up because it's very thread-like. So I'll just grind away until it breaks it down. I'll show you what it looks like. Then we'll pour the saffron into the wine, and you're going to see it turn a nice color. I like to get all of that out of the container, so I'm going to pour the wine, you know, into this a little bit to capture some of that spice in there. So we'll just let that sit there and let that saffron infuse into the wine while we're waiting for those mushrooms to hydrate. So I'm going to quickly cut up my cauliflower. I've got a tutorial for you. I'll leave a link for it in the description if you want to know how to do this. I just want to show real quick here what we're doing. And we'll just pour this in a bowl. You can see how it's nice and riced. So it's time to chop up our mushrooms, but first we want to pour them into a strainer and give them a nice rinse in case there's any sediment in them. I want to get it all cleaned up. and then we'll chop these up. We're ready to start cooking now. Everything's ready. So we'll start off with a little olive oil in the pan because we're going to saute our onions. And we're going to do this for about, probably about 5 minutes or so. We want to soften them up, caramelize them just a little bit, maybe 7 minutes. And I'm going to add the mushrooms too in just a minute. So we'll let these go for 3 or 4 minutes, then we'll add the mushrooms. So I'm going to put this on medium heat to get it started, and then I'll probably turn it down to low heat. All right, our onions have been cooking now for about 4 minutes. I'm going to add the mushrooms to this, and we're going to saute these for another, 4 minutes or so. And so we'll saute the onions and the mushrooms a total of, 8 to 10 minutes. What I'm going to do next is I have my pan right over here, and I'm going to start heating up my sausage because they're cold, and I want them to be warm when I add them to my dish. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes here on these. We're ready to continue on. I'm going to add a little more olive oil, maybe another couple teaspoons to the pan. I'm going to let it warm up for just a second, and then I'm going to add the cauliflower, which is going to absorb some of that oil. So, all right, and then we'll pour in our cauliflower rice. All right, now that we got that worked in, we're going to add a little bit of salt to this, and we're going to add the wine and the saffron. I'm just going to spread it around. It's going to give our rice here, our cauliflower rice, a nice yellow color. I'm also going to add a little bit of chicken broth to this. And we're going to just work this in now. All right, so now that I've got that worked in, I've got my temperature at about medium low. I want to bring it up a little bit because I want to cook this a little bit. And we'll go ahead and cook this for about 5 minutes, and we'll taste it and see what the texture's like, see if it's, done enough for us. Now, if I was using the store-bought cauliflower rice, which, like I said, takes longer to cook, I would cover this. That would help it steam and cook a little bit better, a little bit quicker. The sausages are heating up nicely, and they'll be ready to add in just a minute. Cauliflower's been cooking about 5 minutes. It's softened up a bit. I can feel it. I'm going to give this a taste for salt and see if we need any. Maybe just a touch. Remember, the cheese is going to add a little saltiness to it as well. And I am ready to start adding the cheese. So I'm going to sprinkle this in. I'm going to put my temperature back to low. First in is the Monterey. Here goes the Gruyere. We'll add that. As soon as I get this worked in, then I'll add the sausage, and we're ready to serve it up. You can see that cheese is giving this a little bit of a creamy texture, which is really nice. So that's it, everyone. Pretty much a very easy recipe to put together. You can make it any night of the week, and you know that you're feeding your family something nice and healthy and from scratch. All right, so let's serve some of this up. And I'm going to take a nice bite. Not too hot. This is such a nice savory dish, right? With the onions and the mushrooms, it just is really delicious. And that cheese, it is not powerful at all. It just makes this dish nice and creamy, gives it a slight nutty flavor, and I think you're gonna love it. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it for you. If you know of somebody who might enjoy this, please share it with them. It really helps out my channel. So thanks again for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, click the button subscribe somewhere on the channel, right up here, down below, and you'll be notified when new videos come out. So thanks again for watching, everybody. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this, and we'll see you next time. Take care.